Hi everybody, my name's Eloise Littlejohns and I'm the Director of People and Operations here at Acorn. And today I'm talking to you about how we are moving Acorn to be a capability-led organisation. But before I jump in, a little bit about me. I moved to Australia 9 years ago. I'm originally from the UK. And I've spent the majority of my career working at KPMG, a global management consulting firm across people and change, large learning scale initiatives, and most recently I was the COO of KPMG's innovation department. I was offered the opportunity to join Acorn about 5 months ago, and it's been an amazing experience coming in and joining a growing and scaling business with a really fantastic product. And one of the things that I was given when I first started was how I can roll out Acorn for Acorn. And so that's been one of my big initiatives to get us using our platform consistently and using capabilities as a way that we can link learning and performance together for our employees. So I'm here today to talk you through how we're doing this. But before I jump into that, I'm going to start with our why. Why are we doing this? You might have seen as you've come up through the stairs, there's some examples of how people are feeling that performance is being done at the moment. You can see that learners and leaders are both feeling incredibly frustrated and that performance reviews are not working for anybody. So this is a video that was posted last year, which you might be able to read, but says when you get a 3 out of 5 on your performance review because corporate said nobody gets a 4 or a 5. And the comments kept coming. So let's look at how some of the employees feel. And these are real comments that were posted online. The peak of meaninglessness. So great to spend an hour and a half cataloguing your accomplishments on the self-eval to only have a one-size-fits-all rubber stamp applied. I worked so hard for 4 years to get a 4, it never happened. Last year, honestly my worst year, and I got a 4. I got a 3 out of 5 the first year at my job, putting in a ton of effort. Second year, I stopped caring and barely worked an hour a day. I still got a 3 out of 5. This one, my boss said the quiet part out loud during my annual performance evaluation. I wanted to give you exceeds expectations in every category, but that would trigger an alarm to HR that you're not in the right position. And then how are the leaders feeling? How are we all feeling as the HR leads? When you have to complete 70 plus performance reviews, even though they don't impact anybody's increase at all. And then finally, it's not a performance review, it's an exercise in paperwork. And this one in particular got nearly 7,000 likes. So I think it's fair to say that really resonated with the audience. So then, let's look at the stats. Because companies are good at measuring performance, right? This is one of my favorite quotes. Every single human alive today is a horribly unreliable rater of other human beings. For learners, they've got no idea what they're meant to be demonstrating in their performance reviews. It's really invisible, it's not tangible, and it's not clear about what they're expected to be demonstrating. And this makes it really difficult for leaders to be able to communicate those expectations to the employees. 95% of managers are dissatisfied with their organization's performance review process. 80% of employees feel uninspired by their reviews, and 74% of organizations feel their performance management system isn't effective. And these stats are kind of horrifying. So that brings us on to Acorn. We feel that corporate learning is frustrating and performance reviews are pointless. But when you can connect learning and performance together, it can be done better. And so I'm here today to demonstrate how we think there's a better way that this can be done. So, what we're doing at Acorn. I'm the head of operations and people at Acorn, so I look after everything in the business operationally across our 3 geographies in Canada, Canberra, Sydney and Vancouver. And then I also look after our people strategy, so that's everything across the people experience. This is what our people strategy looks like. So we've got 5 pillars, focusing on talent management, so that's the recruitment, talent attraction, and onboarding. Thinking about when we bring people into Acorn, getting them performing in their roles. So that's the learning and development and our performance management process. We look after engagement and well-being, so making sure that our workforce is thriving. We're giving people really meaningful career pathways and getting them, making sure that they're healthy and their well-being is being looked after. We look after reward and recognition, so this is salary and remuneration and the recognition to make sure that people are being recognised for the work that they're doing at Acorn. And then from an overall workforce perspective, thinking about what the shape of our organisation looks like today, and then as we're scaling into the future, what it needs to look like tomorrow. This is all underpinned by our diversity, equity and inclusion principles and our culture and values. And so what is really exciting about Acorn's platform is that we break down how capabilities can demonstrate to people what they need to be doing to perform in their roles. And actually, where I got really excited, and actually so excited that I genuinely couldn't sleep one night, that this not only looks after the learning and development part and the performance management, but it actually spans across the entire HR strategy. So you can use capabilities consistently in your recruitment process, you can use it in your onboarding, you can use it to map salaries to benchmarks, and you can think about it from a strategic workforce planning and thinking about the capabilities that need to exist within your organisation. Our mantra is role, goal and clarity. And there's a huge amount of research which demonstrates that having the real clarity for employees can actually really help high performers and that motivational side of employees to increase their engagement. So I'm going to break down what this looks like for us. So let's take the role. This is our organisation design. You might not be able to read it from the back. So we are a SaaS business and we're split into several different areas. So on the left-hand side, we've got our sales and marketing function. In the middle, we've got our customer success team, so making sure that we're giving all of our customers, that's some of you, a really fantastic customer experience once you onboard with Acorn. In the middle, we've got our product team, who are making sure that we are developing the latest and greatest parts of the product and thinking about where we can take that into the future. And then we've also got our back office team, so finance, ops, and people, which is where I sit. We took this and we realised that with our capability platform, you can break down every single role within Acorn into 5 key capabilities. So we've used our capability platform to make it very clear for each employee at Acorn what the 5 capabilities for their role are. This makes it much, much easier to demonstrate what they need to be doing to performing in their role now and also into the future, what that development journey can look like. It also makes it much easier for our managers to communicate to them what's expected in their role, rather than having an intangible and nebulous performance review process. We looked across our whole workforce and mapped this into 19 different cohorts. So that means in our organisation, we have 19 different capability sets and can give those to people very clearly and easily. That might sound complex, but actually it's quite easy. So if you scan this QR code here, it's going to take you to the capability assistant on our website. And the screen will look a little bit like something like this, but in the mobile version. And it's going to ask you to put in the name of the organisation and the industry. So you could use yours as the example, or you can use an example. If you want to use Acorn, you can put that in and put that we're a SaaS business. So it's then going to come up with 10 roles that might exist within your organisation. And you can select one of them to generate a capability framework for. And it's going to ask you to nominate the number of capabilities that you want to generate this for. So in this example that we can see on the screen here, we've asked it to generate 5 capabilities for the role. So when we were first thinking about this, we were thinking this might take ages. In fact, we were just working with a very large organisation that estimated that generating these and mapping their job roles to a capability framework would have manually taken them 5.5 months. Whereas actually, for us, we managed to do this in a couple of days and mapped every single role to a capability framework and also made sure that it was in the right Acorn tone of voice and made sense for the roles in our organisation, which is really exciting. It also comes up with a competency description, so it explains very clearly what's expected of that competency, and then it has a different proficiency level. So in our example, we've got 5 different proficiency levels, so we can explain to people what the foundational version of that role looks like, and then as people progress through the different levels, what that more advanced and expert stage can look like. And this is an example of what it looks like. So every role has their scorecard of capabilities. So in this example, you can see that customer relationship management is the capability, and then we've got our 5 different proficiency levels ranging from foundational to developing to proficient to advanced to expert. And we set the expectations of where people should be. So for some of our more junior roles, the more entry-level roles, we expect them to be more at that foundation and developing end of the spectrum. And at the more advanced end, we've got the advanced and expert levels. What's really exciting about this is in our Acorn platform, our employees self-assess where they think that they sit against these capabilities. So that's where they think that they're performing against every aspect of their role. This then gets mapped onto their scorecard, and it then gets sent to their manager to also assess how they think they're performing. And this is really good for is not only is this very consistent and transparent and demonstrates if somebody was at the developing level, how they can move up and progress within the organisation, but it also maps it onto a graph and shows the different expectations between the employee and the manager. And this is so important for those development conversations. And if you think back to some of those comments from the users before, where they get really frustrated is they have no understanding of why they're being rated, what they're being rated, and they don't understand why their manager thinks that they're performing at the level that they are. And so this is a really visible and transparent way that they can demonstrate this. You've got the assigned level, which is the proficient level across all elements. So all of them sit in the middle category. The blue dots show the supervisor assessment. So in this example, we can see that the supervisor has assessed this person at the advanced level, whereas they've self-assessed themselves at the proficient level. So this might be an area for them to discuss why the supervisor thinks that they're performing at a higher level than the employee does. And then conversely, there's some examples where the employee, that's the yellow dot, thinks that they're sitting at the advanced level, but actually here you can see that the manager thinks that they're only performing at a developing level. And so again, this area of product adoption and enablement is an area for focus when they sit down and discuss that in their one-to-one. Once you've then mapped those capabilities, what do you do with that? If you think back to our mantra of linking learning and performance, this is where it gets really exciting as well. People aren't just off in the ether doing all of their different learning and development. You can actually map that to the capabilities that they need to be demonstrating for their role. And again, using AI, this is really exciting because you can not only map it specifically to the capability, but also to the level at which they're performing. So you're not going to have people at the advanced level doing foundational courses or vice versa and leaving the learners feeling frustrated. This also means that any time that they set aside to do learning and development can be really targeted and really have that impact that you're looking for. So that's the role part of it. Let's now talk about the goal. So in addition to using our capability platform, we also use our Momentum product to send out performance pulses to our employees. And this is a really fantastic way to have a bit of self-reflection for our employees. Every fortnight, we send them a performance pulse. And this covers what went well over the last fortnight, what could be improved upon, how they're going against their KPIs, and any support from their managers that they need in help in unblocking any barriers that they're facing. And the employees send this to their manager ahead of the one-to-one. And again, it means that those manager one-to-ones are much more targeted and much more focused on helping the employees perform and talking through how their goals might be going, or also focusing on successes or some of the areas that have gone really well. In terms of what this looks like from our yearly performance meetings, we then, on a fortnightly basis, get sent those performance pulses. So that's the quick form that we ask employees to fill in, which usually takes about 10 minutes, to then meet with their manager and have a performance meeting. Every 6 weeks, we send our staff a one-to-one we send them a capability assessment review, which is the graph that I talked through. And so everybody does a self-assessment of where they're performing against those capabilities. And then they meet with their manager and talk through where some of those differences in expectations are happening. On a quarterly basis, we do this a bit more in-depth, so we do a bit of a retro on what's happened in the previous quarter and look ahead to the following quarter, and can particularly focus on some of those development areas as they move forward into the next 3 months. And then from a yearly basis, we do the year-end review against all of our staff in July and August. We look at salary benchmarking, we look at promotions, and then we make them effective in September. So that's our new performance cadence that we're implementing at Acorn. This also is quite different to a traditional organisation. A lot of organisations only do this on a yearly basis, And we know from the research and also from speaking with our staff that actually people want those development conversations much more frequently with their managers. And rather than everybody spending a week compiling feedback at the end of their year, by doing them much more frequently, they become quicker, people become much more used to flexing those muscles and having those discussions, and it means that people get a much more ongoing review of their performance rather than just a once yearly thing. So let's go back to our people strategy. I've just talked through that performance section in a bit of detail, so that's the learning and development and the performance management. But again, where I got really excited about this was how you can use capabilities as a linking thread across everything that you do in the HR strategy, which really shows the power of knowing those capabilities. So I'm just going to deep dive into a couple of areas to show how I've been using this. And to be honest, it's made my job significantly easier by having this. So from a recruitment perspective, whenever we are recruiting new roles, which we're doing frequently at Acorn because we are a significantly expanding business, I sit down and generate the 5 key capabilities that we need for the new role that we're demonstrating. And I then sit with the performance manager and talk through what level of proficiency we're looking for that role. So in this example, this was for our technical support specialist, and you can see that the 5 key capabilities that we need for that role are technical implementation management, technical knowledge and troubleshooting, customer success and onboarding, technical documentation, and proactive customer support. So I know when I'm going out to interview candidates, specifically which areas I should be asking questions around, and the level at which I'm looking for. We also put this really clearly in our job descriptions so that when candidates are applying, they understand what capabilities they need and also the level at which we're looking for. Often in job ads, there's a laundry list of different qualifications and expectations, and it's actually really difficult to get an understanding of the level that you're recruiting for. And so this helps provide that clarity for our applicants. Let's also drill down into the workforce planning side of things. So again, as an HR leader, it's super helpful to have that view at an individual level, but also as the HR lead, what I really want is to have that view at the workforce level of what capabilities exist within our organization, what career paths can we offer people, and what capabilities are overlapping to think about upskilling and reskilling to give people career mobility and use that as a really important retention tool. So this is an example of the gap analysis report within our platform. So you can see on the left, we've got 5 capabilities and 10 users, and this is for our account executive cohort. So they have their 5 key capabilities, and there's 10 people within this cohort. And what this does is it maps the team against those capability levels. So the purple is where they're at the assigned level, the yellow is where they're above the assigned level, and the red is where they're below the assigned level. And again, this is really helpful for me because I can see actually the team is outperforming in negotiation and closing, which is great because they're closing deals, but actually they're underperforming in their market and product knowledge. And so for me as the HR and L&D lead, I can think, well, maybe we need to implement some kind of training to help them upskill in that market and product knowledge. So again, it really helps me zero in on some of those areas that we need to focus on at a team level overall. Likewise, you can also look at this from the user level. So again, this is the same example, but this time we're split by the users. So I can see in this example, Sarah is performing exactly at the assigned level that we would be expecting, which is great. James is actually performing 40% above where we would expect him to be. And this is really useful because that might signal to me that James is progressing up those proficiency levels and might be ready for a promotion. Or even, as I'm thinking about that succession planning, it might help me think that James might be a candidate to move more into that manager level if he's displaying those capabilities that we're expecting. Here, however, I can see that Emily is actually 60% below the expected capability level. And so this is a flag to me to check in with Emily or Emily's manager and understand what's going on there. Do we need to give them some extra support? Or are there any sort of performance-related initiatives that we need to focus on for them? So again, it's really useful to see both the capability breakdown, but also the breakdown at an individual level. This is also really important from an employee engagement side of things. Again, there's been research released recently, which shows that the top performers, they want really regular constructive feedback, and they want support from their manager, as well as that career line of sight. People want to know where they're going and where they're progressing to in their career, and that's a really important motivational tool. With AI, which Blake's going to chat on a bit later, this is also really exciting because you can now use AI to give you not only those linear career pathways, which people sometimes do, but these days actually frequently don't do, and you can get AI to suggest career pathways that are available to employees. So we've got examples in our organisation where we had, within our graphic design business, one of our employees wanted to reskill and become a product designer. We were able to look at the capabilities, understand that there was a significant overlap in those, and then focus on the areas that she needed to upskill into to become a product designer. And she was promoted last month because of this, which again is a great example of how we can use this in action. From a career mobility perspective, again, it's a really great way and record of an employee's achievements. And so this, from a capability passport, if people are moving around particularly large organisations or even within government departments, this could form a really important record of people's demonstration of their capabilities and learning and development, so that time doesn't need to be wasted upskilling in areas that are no longer relevant for them in their new roles as they move. And again, as I've mentioned, from a succession planning and retention initiative, this is a really great way because as an HR lead, I'm able to zero in on where the people are really outperforming and how I can be thinking about that from a longer term view of promoting people and thinking about succession planning within each of our individual teams as well. So, in summary, it can be done better. Our mantra is role goal clarity, and we want to make sure that there's no more maybe meeting expectations. We want to be really clear for our employees where they're performing and understanding whether they're meeting those expectations or not. We want to make sure that everybody's role fits within the company's overall strategy. We want to not limit conversations to just twice a year, and we want to solicit that two-way feedback between employees and managers to make sure that they're both communicating how they think that they're performing. But there are some challenges. It might sound easy, but it isn't. And a lot of the organisations that we speak to, one of the major hurdles is that framework complexity. So actually getting a capability framework set up in the first place, and then also implementing that consistently. It can be really overwhelming, but also with the advances in AI, as we've seen at Acorn, this can now be done super quickly and also super consistently across the organisation. Standardising job roles can also be really difficult. Again, if you think back to that organisation chart that we had, we've got 19 different cohorts across Acorn, and we're a relatively small business. If you times that up into an organisation of 10,000 people, that number increases exponentially, and doing that manually can feel completely overwhelming. It's challenging to get objective assessment, and again, thinking back to those comments, the objectivity is really difficult, but having those capabilities being mapped out very clearly provides an anchor point for both managers and learners to focus on and to think about how they're performing against that specific proficiency level within the capability. There is also the big change piece, so employee acceptance and training and consistency is a major part. Obviously, flipping anything in an organisation can be really difficult, and it's a really big exercise in change management, and so thinking about what that strategy is to implement capabilities effectively across the organisation is really important. And luckily, we've got a few tools which might be able to help you. So we've put together a one-pager in terms of thinking about how capabilities can be used across people's strategy, which you can download and take back with you for some food for thought. We also have created the capabilities implementation plan. So this talks through some of the areas that you need, including the business case and buy-in, thinking through the planning phase, a pilot phase as you can test this within organisations, and then the rollout and ongoing adoption phases. And we've broken that down into several different sections which can be downloaded. We also, on our website, have the capability framework builder, which we talked through with that live example. And our marketing team, they've also just introduced and launched a job description generator, because again, when we were speaking to customers, that was one of the areas that was a real gap for them as well. It was having consistent job descriptions. So we've now created a job description generator, which can map the job role, all of the capabilities, and pop it out in a job ad that you can put live. And again, when I said this is making my life significantly easier, I'm not joking. Does anybody have any questions on anything that I've covered? Yeah, the feedback from our staff, so we rolled this out in December, so we're in month 3. People have just completed their 3rd capability assessment, and the feedback from staff has been really, really positive. I think the power in the platform is not only making it visible, but it's also facilitating those conversations with their managers on a really regular basis and having that discussion around what that progression looks like. So we've had 2 examples where employees have been promoted since we've rolled that out in December, because we mapped where they were performing, where they needed to get to from their proficiency levels, and once they hit those milestones, we then promoted them, which again is a real success story and again demonstrates to other people that you can move up within the organisation. And I think also one of the other areas which I referenced in the talk was that sort of cross-skilling piece as well. So we've got people that they don't just want to progress up linearly anymore. They want to take their careers and kind of move around and choose your own adventure for their careers. And what's really nice is I can now say as the HR lead, here's how you can get there. If you want to be a business development representative, but you want to move into being an account executive in future, here are the capabilities that there are, and let's work with you on how we can get you there. That might be some formal training, it might be a bit of coaching if we think about that 70-20-10 model, or even getting them in sort of career shadowing or working more closely with those types of roles. So again, I think it's having that visibility, which is really helping that, and from an employee engagement perspective, it's working really well. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So that's what Acorn does. Yes. So and as I was talking through, we can map the learning specifically to the capability and also to the level at which people are looking to learn. But also I think there's those sort of formal learning pieces, but it's also the conversation around that informal learning as well. So that coaching, the on-the-job sort of learning and learning from your peers. And Blake's going to talk through some really exciting things that we've got coming from a kind of peer-to-peer learning and social learning perspective as well. No, it's from a supervisor level. Yeah, so they can see very clearly the team within their cohorts. So the cohorts are mapped to a supervisor and they can have a look at it. And yeah, the supervisor goes in every month as well and reviews their employees' assessments. And then I, as the HR lead, can work with the supervisor on what that kind of means.